Assignment education on KET is made possible with generous support from
the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. 16 colleges working together to educate skilled workers and create better lives for a better Kentucky.
The Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence is committed to engaging Kentuckians on education issues and closing achievement gaps, building a groundswell for better education, early childhood through college. More information at pritchardcommittee.org.
I'm Sam Corbett on Assignment Education, the show that seeks out the positive things that are happening in our Kentucky schools. We'll examine challenges and look for solutions, since education impacts all of us. This time, we tackle topics like online learning.
This is an emergency situation.
What once seemed futuristic is now becoming the new normal. But first, the story of one school in Louisville where they believe it's never too early to start with technology. What are you doing with the computer?
It's one of my favorite classes.
Computers are at the core of the 21st century classroom.
Let's try that out.
And it's never too early to begin learning how they work. Believe it or not, these kindergartners are learning how to create algorithms.
I gotta complete the puzzle.
They're not intimidated at all.
Bill Robinette teaches at St. Athanasius, one of many schools taking part in Coding Week.
It's an international effort to promote computer science. So we're learning the algorithms first, and then later on we'll learn how to put the actual computer code on.
I completed the puzzle.
It says so.
Like putting a puzzle together.
Julia Weaver's kindergartners are already excelling at computer science.
People would be surprised at what 5- and 6-year-olds can do. A lot of times they're doing more than we do, with technology.
All right, now let's see what happens.
Use technology all day in the classroom.
Kindergarten teacher Jessica Westerfield appreciates what computers can do for her students and what the kids can do with them.
And south and west.
I think they're just having fun and don't realize that they're learning.
And maybe we have the next Bill Gates in here, and that's what we're looking to find out.
I think we have to go east 4 times.
East 4 times. Okay, let's do it.
Let's try that out.
Technology is the future, and we have to become more aware of how to use it, how to create it, and how to take care of it.
With the recent outbreak of COVID-19, learning with technology is a must. But there's a big jump between learning in the classroom and using computers. Michelle Sheree is with Jefferson County Public Schools, heavily involved with the team working on distance learning. Michelle, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Sam.
And you're not only an educator, but you have a dual role, and I would suggest a more important role. You're also a mom, so you're experiencing this from the educator's perspective, but you're also experiencing it with your daughter and trying to help her through this. Talk a little bit about the transition that educators have had to make, because literally this came on you in mid-March and with little to no notice, and all of a sudden now you have to deliver everything virtually.
Correct. So I'm giggling that you said I was part of the team working on this, because everyone is on the team working on this. Everybody in the district is now a remote teacher, and we were not trained to do this. So this is literally one of those things where you're building the ship as you're on it. And we were at work on Friday the 13th, and literally we're told, take some things, and we didn't know how long we would be gone, and it's stretched longer and longer. So we have really jumped in and learned to do lots of new things, and we're trying lots of things, and it's exciting. I think we're going to be a lot better when we come out of this, but it's also very frightening to think about what's going on in the world, to calm the nerves of kids, and to make sure that we're making those connections that we need to do.
One of the challenges that we have throughout the state are thousands of kids who don't necessarily have access to the technology, or if maybe they have access to a computer or an iPad, they don't have the Wi-Fi access. How are the systems dealing with that issue?
Sure. So statewide, that's an issue. Countrywide, I mean, worldwide, that's an issue, right? That we have kids who have varying levels of technology. Also, what is there, if they do have internet, how much broadband do they have? If they're using phones, which are great, you can do pretty much anything with a phone now. What are their data plans? So we have to think about all of those things. So as we're designing these things, we have to always think about equity and think about you know, if I'm doing this digitally, what will this look like for a student who's doing this on paper? So in Jefferson County, we're using choice boards. They were created digitally, so all students would have access to these digitally, but we also have paper copies that we're bringing to food sites and making sure students can get them there. We're also putting them on our website so parents can print them if they have access to a printer at home. So we're trying to think outside the box. We even have directions for students on how to use their gaming systems to access Google Classroom to get the work. So we'll tell them how to use your Xbox or your PlayStation to access our work.
Well, and I'm sure most of them can figure that out pretty quickly.
Yes.
So what's the biggest challenge, or who has the biggest challenge? The students or your teachers and the other adults involved in this process? Because kids tend to be pretty adaptable, pretty resilient, pretty flexible, and we as adults sometimes aren't quite as flexible. Where's the biggest challenge?
So I'm an instructional coach, and I work with teachers and I help them create lessons and materials. And one of the hard things that we're having to talk about is that you can't do the exact same thing. You can't take the lesson that you were planning to do in April and just put it online digitally. You really have to think about the design of the lesson. You have to make very clear directions. You have to make it very simple. You don't want to introduce a lot of digital tools. You want to make sure that kids will know how to do this without you sitting next to them. And one of the great pieces of advice I keep hearing is don't try to teach something new. We're trying to just keep them working, keep them, you know, keep their skills sharp, but this isn't the time to really dig in and teach new content because we're not there to help.
Do you think most of your professionals have been able to adapt? And I mean, I see a veteran 20-plus year teacher, and I know this would probably be the case for me. It would be really hard to go through something like this because we're all dealing with this individually and personally in our own lives, and everybody's world is turned upside down. But now it's not just my personal life, but it's my professional life that's turned upside down.
Oh, sure. Teachers are amazing. Teachers are the very best people because they always figure out how to do many things at once. You know, you think about classroom management, you think about taking attendance, you think about when you've got a hungry kid, a sick kid. We know how to do lots of things and juggle lots of things at the same time. So teachers can figure this out. It's not a problem. It's just keeping in mind that we need to keep it simple and clear for kids. And we also aren't going to provide them with 7 or 8 hours of work a day, right? Because parents aren't available to help with all of that. So we really have to think about the numbers I keep hearing are 2 to 2.5 hours a day.
So that, as you were saying that, I was going to ask, so as a parent or grandparent, or what should I expect? What's realistic to ask of my students, some of whom obviously are 5 or 6 years old? So is a couple 2 to 3 hours a day realistic?
We're asking a lot of districts, and the strong suggestion that we've made to lots of teachers is to post work on Mondays and have the work due on Friday so that families can really look at that work and think about what works best for them. For families who do have devices, you know, if they have multiple kids, kids are sharing devices. So we don't want everybody on the computer at the same time trying to do that. So we think structure is important, and having a little bit for kids to do every day is essential. But, you know, kids are dealing with trauma right now, and there's just a lot going on. Parents, you know, there might be upsetting situations in the home with job loss or anxiety. We don't want to add to that.
Talk a little bit about how your daughter's being able to adapt to this whole thing.
Well, our daughter's pretty remarkable. She's 11 years old, but she's 11 going on 35. So this isn't hard for her. She actually has done really well with structuring herself during the day. She's really enjoyed it. But I can tell that she's getting anxious about just the uncertainty of when she will go back. But I'll tell you, NTI, when it first started, her teacher made a video where the kids just got to come in and synchronously they got to talk to each other and just see each other in a Google Meet, which is like a video conferencing program. And that was the very best thing for her because she got to see her teacher, she got to see the other kids, and that was the best thing. And what I really love that her teacher did was she recorded the video and she sent the kids the link afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And Isabellas watched it a few times. So she just likes seeing everyone's face.
So you mentioned earlier that a lot of people are posting a week's worth of assignments and then the child can work at their convenience. how often are they actually able to do some type of video conferencing
Sure.
where the students can see each other, they can see their teacher?
So when you think about remote learning or learning at home, you want to think about asynchronous and synchronous. So asynchronous is everybody just doing something on their own, right? You post the work on Monday, kids work on it when they can. Synchronous is when everybody's together, learning together. That's hard to do when you're sharing devices,
Sure.
when families are in and out. You might have you might have older children watching younger children. So we're really recommending that the majority of the work be asynchronous, where kids can access it when they can. I like that synchronous piece just for community, just for kids seeing each other's faces. I think that's such a great way. If a teacher can deliver maybe a mini lesson, get kids in, chatting with each other, seeing each other, I think that's so powerful. And kids look forward to that.
Are there things that you could share with parents or grandparents about how to keep the kids engaged, how to deal with the anxiety issues, and just kind of help their children work through this?
I think the biggest thing is to have a routine. My child likes a schedule where everything starts at a certain time. She really thrives on that. Not every kid wants that, but I think at least a checklist. If you can have, like, we need to accomplish these 5 things today, and you mark them off, I think that can be really satisfying to mark things off. And add some easy things to the list, right? Because everybody likes to check one thing
Sure.
off right away. I also think grace over grades. Don't obsess over the grades right now. Everything I'm hearing locally and nationwide, and I interact with a lot of teachers around the country, is that I keep hearing the phrase grace over grades and feedback, and lead with love, not lessons. So, this time we all just need to give each other a little grace and a little understanding and focus on how we can support kids and make life better for them right now.
Will we assign grades, and will we assess this work over this period, which could be several months?
So I'm seeing in a lot of places, I keep up with education news across the country, and I'm seeing in a lot of places that they're saying that students cannot fail during this time, that this time can only help students, and that we don't want to do harm because we can't promise that every kid's going to have a paper copy or that kids are going to get support at home. This isn't distance, this isn't, when we talk about distance teaching or distance learning, this isn't that. This is an emergency situation where we're putting something together. So I think, I haven't heard anything specific from JCPS, but I know that across the country, many superintendents are having this discussion right now and saying that this time should only help kids. We're only there to support.
Well, thanks a lot for helping us better understand what you as educators are dealing with and what you as parents are dealing with. We really appreciate it, and hope that this doesn't last very long. That I think we're all optimistically looking towards a traditional August, September start of the next school year, and we can look back on this and as you said, learn from it.
Yep, and the interesting thing too is hearing from so many kids how much they miss school. And a few weeks ago, they might not have said that.
Yeah, that's got to be really rewarding.
It is.
Well, thank you again for being
welcome.
with us today.
Thank you.
There's no question that technology will play an important part in every classroom in the future. Pandemic or not. And in one local school, we're getting a glimpse into the future as kids take field trips using virtual reality.
I really got interested in these ancient civilizations.
Jennifer Mueller is a science and social studies teacher at St. Martha in Louisville.
They love it.
She's also a tour guide all around the world.
So they went to Chichen Itza.
We went to the Maya pyramids, New York, Spain.
They went to Machu Picchu,
ancient Egypt, and Canada's forests. I see a big lake.
They're taking field trips using virtual reality.
And it really sparks their interest in what we're learning.
It's really fun, and it helps me learn better at the same time.
We need to bring the world to these kids. Books have facts and information, and it's great. And we use them, and we take notes still, but they get lost there. When they see it, when they're there, when they're reaching out to touch those places, those people, and it becomes real to them. That knowledge connects with them in a way that is deeper than anything you can really get from just facts and a textbook and a still photo.
I see the Milky Way and a lot of tall buildings.
Hearing the oohs, the ahs, they'll reach out to touch things.
It's like you're there
There's a lot of moaning and groaning from 5th graders when studying geography. That has completely changed since we've had the VR equipment. They want to come in here. They want to know more about those cultures. They want to experience those places. And they're asking questions about it more than I think I've ever gotten from a standard kind of lesson.
I think it's very educational.
I hope we do get to that place where every kid can explore the world, can see what's out there beyond their area, and become more of a global citizen through these adventures and experiences in the classroom.
And with virtual field trips, there are no permission slips to sign and no school buses.
Sometimes the buses, they get a lot of crowded and loud, so I kind of don't miss riding on the buses.
Now to a story of a high school in Louisville where kids are getting a head start on college and their career.
We need to stop saying, are you ready for college or not, and start saying, are you ready to graduate, and what's your plan?
These students at Southern High School are going straight from graduation to career paths, and they're hitting the ground running.
Just can't wait to start working full time.
Tritt Love Holland already has a job at a local manufacturing company, and he's not alone.
We have over 100 students who are being recognized for passing an industry certification test. That gets them ready for an entry-level job in a machine shop.
Matthew Haynes is the machine tool and die instructor at Southern, preparing kids to make good money immediately.
They start out as an apprentice at $14 to $16 an hour, and by the end of their 4-year apprenticeship, not only are they debt-free, they'll be making $24 to $28 an hour. We also have a lot of kids that take their hands-on experience and they end up going to U of L Speed School, where they learn something like mechanical engineering, industrial engineering.
So what this thing does, it actually simulates some machine processes?
Then we also have schools like Lincoln Tech that will offer technical training for students who maybe don't want a traditional university experience, but definitely do want to continue their education.
There's good kids here with good skill sets that are going to make great careers.
They're like, what am I going to do after I graduate? Well, me, I already know what I'm going to do because I've been doing it.
Some of our kids do go on to college.
Southern principal Tyler Sharon says the Pathways program is having a ripple effect throughout the school.
Their attendance has gone up. They're just more connected to the school.
This Metal Academy program is one of the bright spots of the Jefferson County school system.
We no longer look at college or career readiness. We look at transition readiness. Are you ready to do something after high school, be it college, the workforce, the military? There's a host of different options.
We talk a lot here at Southern about students having a plan and the ability to implement that post-graduation, something more than just a high school diploma.
Taking advantage of my opportunities.
Higher ed is evolving today more than ever. And joining us today is Terry Giltner, who's with the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, to help us better understand some of the challenges that we're seeing here in the Commonwealth. Terry, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Could you maybe start out by explaining to our viewers what the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, which many of us refer to as KCTCS, explain a little bit about the system.
We are a system of 16 colleges with 70 campuses, and in fact we like to say that we're within a 30-minute drive of 95% of the citizens of Kentucky. So we're all across the state. We offer kind of 2 tracks. One is transfer education, those folks that want to come for their first 2 years to get a part of that 4-year degree, and then they transfer on. And then the other is folks that are looking for a technical degree. And our student population is kind of split between those 2 different tracks.
And approximately how many students are in your system?
Annually, we have about 107,000 students. So we're the largest post-secondary institution in the state of Kentucky.
And one of the things you were telling me the other day as we're all going through this coronavirus situation, and so much of education is, really all of education has gone online or some type of distance learning, but you were telling me that your system has been involved in that for many years, and actually probably doing more of that than anybody in the state.
We have been. More and more the 4 years have kind of jumped in, but we really were kind of the first ones out there. We are the largest provider of online education, and about 60% of our students take at least an online or a hybrid class right now. Now, of course, some of our technical programs can't be done completely online. You know, there are labs and things they have to do. It's really hard to do a totally online welding program, as you can imagine. Sure. But a good portion of our classes are online.
Would you say that your experience was maybe less traumatic than some of the other 2- and 4-year or 4-year colleges and universities in the state because you all somewhat had a head start?
I don't know if I would say that just because of our technical programs. We have gone, I don't want to say we've gone completely online. We have online and remote. When I say remote, you know, we're doing that teaching remotely, but not necessarily in an online fashion as you think. I mean, we have, in fact, one of the employees that works on my staff, his father teaches automobile advanced manufacturing at Owensboro. And, you know, some of his students don't really have access to computers and things like that. So they're taking pictures of their exam papers and sending it to them on their mobile phones.
Some of our students don't have access to the materials, the technology that they may need to operate in this world that we're living in today. How are you all addressing that?
Well, one of the things is having access to Wi-Fi. You're online most of your courses. So one of the things that KCTCS has done, and this is not only to help our 16 colleges, but all the 4 years as well, we have Wi-Fi hotspots on the parking lots of all 70 of our campuses. So, and what we're finding right now, I just looked at the results, we have as many of 1,300 people a day logging on in those guest sites. And and they, you know, somebody asked me the other day, are the parking lots busy? Well, it's not like a drive-through or anything, but it is a place where students can go, whether they're with the University of Kentucky, Western, or one of our colleges, and get access to download things if they have to do that, or submit things. So,
with everything we're going through, how does this impact, or potentially will it impact the senior who's graduating from high school, who potentially is trying to enroll into your system or other colleges or universities?
I have seen some preliminary surveys that have been done nationwide. In fact, I looked at one yesterday that students are really not, they're even afraid to enroll for fall semester because they don't know what their lives are going to be like. Right. And we're also doing telephone. A lot of our colleges are calling every single student and asking how they're doing and how they're feeling, and we're getting that feedback that it's just really hard to make decisions right now.
Is there any advice that you might be able to offer those students and their parents as they're experiencing something that's really unprecedented for all of us?
You know, I think coming out of this, affordability is really going to be important. And so I would spend this time really looking at your financial aid options, really investigating what the resources out there are, because there are lots of scholarships that go unfunded every single year, ungiven. You know, so there's a lot of financial aid out there. I think the federal government is going to be providing some extra financial aid for students. So really be doing your research, and don't give up on college, because it's still going to be here. It may not be the traditional way in the fall. We have no way of knowing at this point, but it's still going to be there. So don't give up on your dreams, I guess.
Obviously. So those students who are pursuing that, and obviously many of them are probably already starting that process, but where should they go? What should they do if they want to explore enrolling in these financial aid options and the other things that they're going to need to address?
Well, there are a lot of places to go, but one I suggest, particularly for high school students, is the KET website, because that can, and they get a lot of KET information and newsletters on an ongoing basis, but that sends them has links to a lot of places to help them with financial aid and all of the resources. They have a really good description of the different colleges. They have links so that they can go directly to the various options that are out there. So this is actually a good time. You're home. You know, it's a good time to explore all of those opportunities, and there are so many higher education opportunities out there. This whole situation is really an opportunity for higher ed to really relook at the way we deliver education and doing it the way students want it. But we have known for quite some time that shorter sessions are what a lot of our students, because we have a lot of non-traditional students, they have a lot of responsibilities and just things they have to juggle all through their lives. And they want shorter sessions that they can get done and get out. And we offer quite a bit of those, but we're looking at even offering more of those for the fall, like 8-week sessions. So that they can get in and get out.
So you could see some potential changes within your all system as a result of what we're experiencing? Maybe some things that, as we've learned, that maybe your students and their families are looking for some different alternatives, that maybe we'll see some changes?
I think you'll see that across the board.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes with us today in our lovely outdoor setting as we're following our social distancing that the governor has asked us to do. We really appreciate it, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll start the new academic year in August and September just as we always have. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm Sam Corbett, and we'll see you again with more good news from Kentucky schools on Assignment Education. Assignment Education on KET is made possible with generous support from
the Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence is committed to engaging Kentuckians on education issues and closing achievement gaps, building a groundswell for better education, early childhood through college. More information at pritchardcommittee.org.
The Kentucky Community and Technical College System. 16 colleges working together to educate skilled workers and create better lives for a better Kentucky.